Today what we're going to talk about is how to use state within a component. So for starters, state is essentially a way that values are remembered. And each React component uses state to remember things about data that changes during the app's lifecycle. So unlike the props that we pass in, the state is dynamic and mutable, which means that it can change, and also that when it does change, it's going to trigger React to update the screen. The state itself is private to a component, meaning that each state has its own component. We will learn later how to make it not be this way, but that is how we are going to start out. And then in order to use state, we have to have what's called the useState hook. So in the notes that we have here, I'm going to just walk through some of the basic ways in which we can create a state variable, and then we can have a counter that we see on the screen, and then as we press these increment and decrement buttons, the counter will go up or down. So this document has example code that you can refer to, although we're going to go ahead and we're going to code this together. All right, so for starters, right now if I look at my screen, I can see that I have a text which has the label my wallet, and I want my wallet to start out with, we'll say $5. I mean, I'd love more, but we'll be a little realistic right now. So for starters, I have to import the useState hook from React. And you might notice if you look at some other videos that React is also imported. However, with newer versions of React Native, that's no longer necessary, which is why I am not using that. Okay, so now that I have my useState created, I can go ahead and I can create a state variable. Now this will be defined inside the curly braces, but before the return. So I'm going to say const, and I'm going to define this just as my wallet, how much money is in my wallet. And then I'm going to say set wallet equals useState, and then I have to tell it what type of data I'm receiving. And then and then I have to give it a, oh my gosh, there we go, a starting value. And like I said, I want to start at $5. So essentially what this means here is if we were to add just some quick little comments here to describe what we're looking at here. Wallet is the state variable name. Set wallet will be used to update the value of wallet. The data type is of type number, and the starting value is 5. So that's what all that those different pieces of code mean there. Now, if we were to go ahead and we wanted to get the value of this variable to show up on my screen, let's say, for example, right here after my label, I'm going to put the name of my variable in curly braces. Now, if I save this and refresh, we can see that I now see that value there. All right, so let's create two simple buttons that we're going to use to increase and decrease the amount of money in my wallet. So to spend and to earn. And to keep things simple, I'm going to use the button composable or component. And this is just the default one I'm importing from React Native. And recall that this needs a title. We'll just say increase. And then we're going to make another one of these. That's going to say decrease. Now, if I tried running my code right now, just to get those buttons on the screen, I'm going to get oh, I guess it does work. I thought I was going to get an error, but right now I'm missing my onPress functionality. So I can see them, but they don't do anything. So let's go ahead and add an onPress. So I'm going to say onPress equals, and then I'm just going to put my basic function, no parameters here. I'm just going to call set wallet, and when I'm increasing, I'm going to take the amount of money in my wallet and I'm going to add 1 to it. And then for my decreasing, I'll just copy this. I'm going to do the same thing, except I will decrease. All right, so now if we save it and refresh it, I will see that the value of my wallet is going up, and then the value of my wallet is going down. Now, you might say, wait, hold up. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd love to spend money I don't have. However, let's adjust that functionality. So let's say I wanted to create a function that instead of allowing it to always go down 1, it would only go down if I had money. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a function to only spend money I have. Okay, so I'm going to say const, I'll call it decrement. We could also call it spend. Let's call it spend. Nah, we'll just leave it as decrement. And I will have my, it's not taking in anything. And here is what this function is going to do. So if the amount of money in my wallet is positive, if I still have money, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spend it. So I'm going to say set wallet, wallet minus 1. Now, let's say I don't have the money. So else, how about now we instead just alert the user, and we'll say alert, you spent all your money, and then nothing will happen. Okay, now you'll notice when we look at this function that the name is grayed out, and that's because it's not being called. I want to call it inside my onPress. So now my onPress will just say decrement. All right, let's refresh. And when I increase, I spend money. And if I decrease, once I get down to 0, I can't spend any more money, and I just get my alert message, and you'll notice that nothing changes. All right, now we've already talked about how we can style this and do different things with it. Now, in a different file, I had created similar code, and I made a counter composable, and I have this code in the notes file. And here I had a counter variable, and when I increased or decreased, it would go up or down. Now, if I wanted to use this entire component in my app, I can. So let's say I said, for example, I wanted to have the counter. Notice it's importing from my components library. And if I save this, I'm now going to see that new component. Now I get that it looks ugly. That's not the point right now. But I can increase and decrease. Great, lovely. So if all I want is to have an on-screen counter, this would allow me to do that. And notice how much cleaner my code looks. This is all I have, just with one line. I don't have to have my function. I don't have to have all of this. However, if I wanted to know the value and I wanted to access it somewhere else, this isn't going to allow me to do that. If I wanted to say, for example, have a text box and said the count is, and then I tried to access that count variable, which is declared in here, it's not going to let me. And we'll learn how to do that later, but for right now, I wouldn't be able to do that. All right, that is all for today. Hopefully that was helpful in getting you to understand how to work with a state variable. Just a quick recap, we declare the variable, we create an update method or function for the variable. We have to declare that I'm using the useState hook. I have to give the data type because I'm in a TypeScript file, and then this is my starting value. And then whenever any component that refers to that value, whenever that value changes, then that component will re-render. All right, that is all.